What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt. Let's take a deep dive into what's happening in Canada's housing market right now. So the big question is on everybody's mind, is the advantage swinging back towards buyers right now? So for quite a while, as you might have known, obviously sellers were in a position of power for many years in the Canadian real estate market. Especially during the height of the pandemic, the housing market was dominated by sellers. We had scarce supply, intense competition, huge bidding wars, buyers often scrambling to outbid each other. It wasn't uncommon to see these huge price increases over asking that sent prices sky high. But recently there's been a noticeable shift the last couple of years, and things are really starting to balance out a little bit more. So let's break down what's going on. Okay, so first off, we're seeing a lot more properties coming on the market. Last month, the number of properties for sale across Canada's MLS system jumped by nearly 23% compared to the same time last year. Now, even though the total number of listings is still below historical averages, this increase is significant, right? It's giving buyers more options, okay, which is a welcome change from the super tight market that we saw not too long ago. And to give you some perspective on this, right, the sale to new listings ratio, which is a key metric that helps us understand the balance between supply and demand, eased to 52.7% in July. During the pandemic, this ratio was as high as 89.4% in February of 2022. So we've moved from a market where almost every new listing was snapped up immediately to one where there's a bit more breathing room for buyers, okay? Now, what does all this mean if you're looking to buy a new home? It's definitely a lot more favorable for you, right? According to Jana Dowdy, a broker based in Waterloo, we're starting to see sellers being more flexible and willing to make concessions, something that was almost unheard of during the pandemic, okay? Sellers are now more open to accommodating financing conditions, which can really benefit buyers who are trying to secure a mortgage right now during these trying financial times. And there's also some really good news for first-time home buyers. There seems to be a growing sense of confidence among this group. They're not only taking advantage of lower interest rates, but they're also benefiting from slightly falling home values in some areas, right? Which at the rate at which we stress test mortgages decreasing, their buying power has strengthened, okay, making it a bit easier to step into the market, albeit not like incredibly easy altogether, but it makes it a bit better. Now, speaking of rates, this is another area where buyers might find some relief. Over the summer, borrowing costs have started to tick down. Fixed rates have dropped, thanks in part to declining five-year government bond yields. And on the variable side, the Bank of Canada has cut interest rates twice now, so once in June and in July, bringing those rates down as well. But here's the thing about this, okay? While these lower rates are encouraging more people to list their homes, they haven't yet caused a huge shift in the mortgage landscape yet. A lot of buyers are still playing it very safe and opting for that fixed rate mortgage. With prime lending rates still relatively pretty high, many feel that locking in a fixed rate offers a bit more security in these uncertain times, okay? Now, it's important to note that this buyer-friendly shift isn't happening everywhere, right? So in some markets, obviously Calgary, Edmonton, the Alberta markets, even Montreal, they're still leaning towards pretty heavy seller's market, right? But in Toronto, the dynamic is very different. Buyers actually have the upper hand right now in Toronto, okay? Especially when it comes to newly built condos. They have a huge upper hand there, okay? And there's some evidence that condo owners are eager to sell, possibly due to the rapid rise in interest rates over the past year. So looking ahead, what can we see? Okay, so we can expect more new listings, right? And this is my opinion, and I'm reading this more and more amongst different sources on the internet, but we're going to see a lot more new listings hitting the market in the coming months. However, that doesn't necessarily mean prices will drop significantly across the board, and they can drop. But of course, they can also just go sideways and stagnate, right? Some properties might see slight decreases and others could become more competitive as buyers come in to step and bid for them. It's worth noting that luxury homes haven't felt the full impact of these changes, likely because buyers in this segment aren't affected by fluctuations in mortgage rates, right? Usually a lot of luxury properties are bought with full-on cash, right? Full-on cash. It's very rare that you'll see someone very wealthy buy a house with a mortgage. Usually they'll just have excess cash, right? And they'll just deploy it right into the asset, you know, if it's a few million, $5 million, $10 million, right? Now, where does this leave the average person? It's clear that the market's really starting to evolve, right? Buyers are starting to see some advantages in some markets, but it's still a mixed bag. And the key takeaway here is if you're in the market to buy, now I think is actually a really good time to buy, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. As always, it's important to stay informed, work with someone knowledgeable. If you want to work with me directly, I will leave my information down below for you guys. We can always make sure that we're making decisions that align with your long-term interests. And so if you guys enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It really helps me push these videos out to a new audience who might really benefit from the information. And until the next video, guys, take care.